Gaming's in an interesting place right now. Profits seem to be at an all-time high, while morale seems to be at an all-time low. A staggering number of layoffs and studio shutdowns has hit the industry like a brick. We're smack dab in the middle of a news cycle that includes corporate greed, DEI controversies, and Gamergate too. And I have plenty of thoughts on these topics, but those are stories for another day. How you doing, folks? My name's Vidal, SuperNinja, and today we'll be focusing on a much more positive subject, the future of games. I'll be covering all the obvious AAA titles that are coming down the pipe, but I'll especially be trying to highlight some of the smaller titles that might go under the radar. There were a ton of games I wanted to talk about, a little bit too much for one episode, so I had to split this one up into a multi-part series that I'll be releasing little by little over the next couple of weeks and months. So be sure to come back if you like what you see. Also, like, share, subscribe. Anything to help the channel out would be greatly appreciated. But let's not waste any more time and get right to it. Earlier this year, we lost a legend.
What the heck is this?
The site of the great Aquanium explosion. And the one who pulled the trigger on that bomb was the commander of the Royal Army Tank Corps. Me. We can't let it cause yet another tragedy.
Sandland. Admittedly, I know very little about Sandland. I've not read the manga and I didn't even know about the anime adaptation. I had no idea if this was an original IP or some kind of extension to Dragon Quest. But when I first got a glimpse of this game's trailer a few months back, I was immediately hooked. That unmistakable art style of Akira Toriyama. His work on Dragon Ball and Chrono Trigger have inspired me in ways I cannot measure. I'm an artist. I draw, I sketch, I paint. There's a little bit of DBZ and Chrono in every drawing I've ever made. I was already all in on Sandland. Whenever I see Akira Toriyama's name tied to a game, I dive right in. But knowing that this is one of the very last projects this man has ever worked on has spiked my interest in it tenfold. I'm going in on Sandland blind, but it looks beautiful and fun. And I hope the end product is worthy of the man that inspired so many. This game seems to put a lot of emphasis on adventure aspects, exploring the massive world, building up and customizing what looks to be a ton of vehicles and different mechs. They touched on this a little bit in Dragon Ball Z Kakarot with the mechs and cars, but its implementation was pretty shallow. I just don't think anybody was playing Dragon Ball Z for mechs and car racing, but here it looks like it's going to be the focus and fully flushed out. Honestly, I can't wait to see what kind of customization options they give with the creation tools. I see a little bit of Robo in some of these robots, a little bit of Red Ribbon Army, a little bit of Capsule Corps, a lot of bit of Akira Toriyama. If this is truly his swan song, may it reach the heights worthy of a man of his caliber.
To the secrets he was keeping from his own army?
One of the nasty relics of that foolish war.
I seriously don't understand human.
Sandland drops on everything on April 26. Lords of Exile. Now, I did a preview look at this game a few years back, while it was still early in development. But I'm happy to announce that on Valentine's Day this year, it dropped. So I want to give my sincere congrats to Squidward Works for finally getting this one out the gate. I could only imagine the one-man solo developer busted his ass to get this game to look this good. Lords of Exile looks like it's borrowing its inspiration from Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. which unapologetically borrows its inspiration from Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. Though it really looks like the one-man solo developer really used his talents to forge his very own identity. I've been following this game's long development cycle for years, but I'm stoked that it's finally here, and I'll share my thoughts after I've given it a try.
Your simulation days are over, Trooper. This is a real battle.
Star Wars: The Battlefront Collection. As some of you may or may not know, Star Wars Battlefront 2 will go down as one of my very favorite video games of all time. And I was extremely excited about this remastered re-release here. But as it stands today, as of this recording, this game is a fucking mess. And it is heartbreaking for me to say that. This should have been a guaranteed home run. Somehow, some way during the relaunch of these games, they managed to fuck them up. How? How do you mess up 20-year-old games this bad? I don't know. Seriously, the launch has been a complete mess.
Feel the Force. Tonight, the fall of the Jedi is at hand. Your friends can't save you now.
When I heard the announcement for this, I had intended for this to be the very first game I ever live streamed. And I was excited for it. But in its current state, I'm not even gonna waste my time. However, I'm gonna try to stay positive here. I'm hoping that there was enough noise made by the fan base and that those responsible for this are working on fixes and patches for this as we speak. We live in this stupid era where games come out half-cooked all the time, but some of those games have made some amazing turnarounds. I'll be keeping my fingers crossed that Star Wars Battlefront will be another great comeback story. In the meantime, go check out my full, much more loving review of Star Wars Battlefront 2 under my favorite video games of all times list. I think after you see it, you'll understand a little more why I'm pulling so hard for this one. Star Wars deserves better.
Lord Vader has arrived.
Experience the action. Feel the Force. The Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection.
It's over. Forget our old doomsday scenarios. In the end, our pride and avarice was to be our downfall. And yeah,
Outpost Infinity Siege. This game's being described as a first-person shooter, tower defense, real-time strategy, mecha combat hybrid. There's a hell of a lot of different genres mashed together. But shit, look at this. This game's being developed out of a lesser-known studio called Lightning Games out of China. Looking over their resume, they seem to specialize in mobile games, but they did announce intent to bring this one over to consoles, so I'll definitely be keeping an eye on this one. I don't have a clue about the plot, but I don't even think that matters. I'll tell you exactly what I'm fighting for.
I like big butts and I cannot lie.
I would bring all the thunders of war to clap those cheeks. This game plays half as good as it looks. We might have ourselves a winner here. The gist of it, though, seems to be your standard battle against the rogue AI in a future war setting. You alternate between exploring areas for resources, base building, and item management. The game is boasting 4-player co-op modes, which is always awesome. Some of these scenes remind me of The Matrix, the second renaissance and the battle for Zion in The Matrix Revolutions. I get really easily hooked on tower defense games, and especially when they're mixed together well with other genres. This one's dropping right now only on PCs, but I'll keep y'all posted on updates for the console release. Berserk Boy. Fans of Mega Man X should see something very familiar with this game, as by most accounts it's being described as a Mega Man X meets Sonic the Hedgehog hybrid. I love that the character's power-ups drastically change the look of the armor, and are not just color palette swaps. The costume changes seem to come with different abilities that reflect that. The action looks fast-paced and super intense. Looking forward to seeing how these abilities play out. The soundtrack has been put together by T. Lopes, who I've become a big fan of. His works include Sonic Mania, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, and Streets of Rage 4 Mr. X Nightmare. I'm really looking forward to hearing what he's cooked up this time. Berserk Boy dropped on March 6th on pretty much everything, so go check it out, play it, get back to me, let me know what you guys think. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Without a question, this one right here is one of my most hotly anticipated games of the year. The original Final Fantasy VII is one of my favorites, if not my very favorite video game of all time. I'll admit, when the remake was first announced, my hype was through the roof. The only game I could have wanted a remake for more was Chrono Trigger. However, my expectations were quickly tempered when they announced that these would not have turn-based combat. And I know I'm not alone in that. There seems to be an endless debate online as to whether or not Final Fantasy should have gone the direction of the action RPG. And while I do very much love the action RPG genre, Xenoblade, Monster Hunter, and Final Fantasy XII coming to mind, a part of me would have always preferred this to be a classic turn-based RPG. Don't give me that bullshit about the style being out of date or not fitting for modern audiences, while games like Persona and Fire Emblem are smashing the sales charts. So if Square Enix could please stop catering to this ADD-riddled generation with their fucking TikTok brains, they might actually develop some patience and sense of strategy. That all said, I'll probably still play the shit out of this game and love every minute of it. Sorry about the rant, but I've been sitting on that for 4 years. Look, it's Final Fantasy VII. As I said earlier, one of my favorite games of all time. It was a special game at a special time. So much in the world of video games has changed since those days. So much in the world has changed. I don't think it's out of line for gamers to want to protect the masterpieces of the past. Every day, in so many ways, the people of that era are told that the things that they loved were wrong. Outdated, needed to be fixed, needed to be changed, was problematic, updated, refit for a modern audience. It should come as no surprise that some of us were going to be fiercely protective of this. Sometimes change works. Every now and again we get a remake or a remix that somehow improves on the original. But, and you know this is true, it's like a rapper putting a fucking trap beat over a classical masterpiece. 1 in 1,000 might hit. Yeah, a few of these might actually bang. But we usually have to go through about 10,000 pieces of garbage just to get there. Credit where it's due. Final Fantasy VII Remake is not one of those shitty trap rapper remixes. The remake was a bona fide classic in its own right. This wasn't just some cash grab. I believe that Square Enix put true love into every bit of that game, and I very much love it for what it is. I don't know if I agree with the branching timelines, but I am super interested to see where they're taking this thing. Stoked that there's at least 2 more Final Fantasy VII games in front of me. I'm really curious to see how far they go with this. Why even stop at the end of Final Fantasy VII? Keep it going. Give us a game adaptation of Advent Children. God knows if there was one game that needed a remake, it was that fucking Vincent game. I know a lot of traditionalists didn't like the changes. I think I've made it pretty clear, I get it. Whether you're an old school fan or a new school fan, I think one thing we could all agree on, when all is said and done, Tifa's titties are still tittying. In the end, that's all that really matters.
Did you just say tits?
Yes, I did, Joe from GameSack. Yes, I did. So what did you guys think? I'd say 2024 is off to an interesting start. There are so many cool games that have come out this year so far, and still a lot ahead. So y'all be sure to come back for part 2 and part 3 and beyond. The AAA gaming space might be a clusterfuck of a mess right now, but independent developers have really stepped their game up. And truly, I think the future of this industry is in their hands. I'll be doing my best to highlight more of their games throughout the year. In the meantime, just remember to stay classy, stay cool, and of course, be excellent to each other. This is Vidal SuperNinja signing out.